as soon as people hear that you're a content creator and you're a Christian, they put you on the highest pedestal. Like, you better have everything right. And the moment I find out that you're doing something wrong, condemn. Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Between the Walls podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Jess.
And I'm Jonathan, and we are the Wallaces.
Yes, and we are matching today. And before you guys talk about how cute we are and how in sync we always are, I was wearing something different, but I saw Jonathan come down in this, and I decided to change my shirt.
She did. This is true.
I copied your style.
This is our second episode that we are recording today.
Yes.
So we are trying to keep the energy levels up and high.
I feel good. We just had a coffee shop. We just went live. We just did a lot of talking in the past 3 hours.
Yeah, and Jess is a whole lot better than that than I am.
You talk more throughout the day than I do. I'm normally quiet the entire day because I work from home and I have nobody to talk to.
Maybe because I've been talking since like 6 something this morning. But I'm good. We're good.
That's fair. Well, you guys, welcome back to another episode. Today I'm going to answer, or we're going to talk about something that somebody asked us. But before we get into our podcast topic, I gotta ask my husband, what was your peak of the week?
What was my peak of the week? You know, and right before we recorded this, you're like, make sure you have a peak for the week. And I'm like, yeah, I got you for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, this one's going to sound kind of stupid, but...
Better not be mine again.
No. This one's specific to me.
Okay.
So I'm a physical therapist, so most times... In school, they teach you how to solve cases, what it seems like. Mm-hmm. Where, like, when they come in, they tell you what's hurting, and you have to solve what it is and get to the bottom of it. And in school, you do a whole lot of that. But in the real world, you don't really get to do that because most people come in with a diagnosis from a doctor, or they come in with an MRI. So you just know what it is pretty much from where you're starting from. But today, I had a patient that came in, actually 2 patients that came in today, that they had no diagnosis, they had nothing. Mm-hmm. And I kind of felt like, I don't know, like Inspector Gadget or like Sherlock Holmes trying to figure out what it was exactly. Mm-hmm. And they weren't like cases that were so hard that you're like, I don't got no idea. But they fell into a box. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what this is. I know exactly how to help you. Mm-hmm. So that was like fun. It was like, I got to do like real work today.
No, that's good. That's cool. Honestly, I wanted to do these peaks of the weeks because I think it's important for us to find the joy in the little things. Because it doesn't always have to be like I got a raise, or we bought a new house. Or it doesn't always have to be something big. I want us to like rejoice in the small things. Yeah. So mine is also like, at first it felt like a negative, but then I started to think about it more, and I was like, oh, this actually was, I can see it as a positive. So my peak of the week is this morning, I was on the phone with my dad, and he called me while I was working, and he's like, hey, are you busy? And I'm like, I got about 5 minutes for you. And we ended up being on the phone for 2 hours. It was like an hour and 47 minutes, but a very long time. So we'll just say for 2 hours. And although our conversation was a tough one, because I was just talking to him about life. Life is tough. But I'm just like, I just think it's such a blessing that I have this relationship with my dad, that we can talk about such personal things, and that my dad is even still around and in my life, and we have a relationship where he can call me and we could talk about anything. So I thought that was really special, even though it was a tough conversation, that we're so close that we can talk literally about anything.
That's
and I was
cool.
just really grateful. I'm like, I love my dad so much. Like, that's a good man, Savannah. Also, something interesting I wanted to say, which is very aside from this, I was reading the Bible this morning, as I do every morning. Woman of God, except for the weekends I slack. Okay, listen, I was reading John, and I was reading about Lazarus, and at the point where Mary and Martha were crying because their brother had passed, and it said a lot of people around them started like wailing and weeping as well, and it said that Jesus was angered by this. I mean, they maybe didn't say by this, but it says that he was heavily angered. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm getting somewhere. I put a question mark by it because I'm like, I need to get back to this, because why was he angry? And I like did some Googles, and there were like a few different answers or responses. Some said he was angry because the fact that there's sin in the world and people have to die. And there's some where like he was angered because he hates sin and he hates death. But whatever. Either way, it was nice to see, or interesting to note, that Jesus, although he is God and he is so powerful, he had human emotions. So he knows how we feel when we feel things, because he became human flesh to feel all the things and to experience all the things. So we can never say God doesn't know how I feel because he felt human emotions while he was here. He understands. And I thought that was so interesting. I'm like, God is angry. I'm like, God, you know you're about to raise him from the dead. And he knew that too, but he still had a human emotion. And obviously it also said Jesus wept. Like he had human emotions. He was sad. He was angry. Like he felt love. Like all those things. And I thought that was just very interesting. I love that I'm reading John and I'm really getting to know Jesus more. And I just feel like I'm on top of the world. I love it.
Yeah, that's my favorite book of the entire Bible. You know, John is just so cool.
It's good.
It's just a good time. That's all I have to say about that.
No, that's fair. We've been doing a lot of talking today. So not that we're going to cheat you out of a good podcast episode, but like we're just going to get right into it.
Let's do it.
Feel good? Okay, so shout out to Nani Crawford. She said, hey, Jess, can you and Jonathan do a podcast on what it feels like to have this platform? Having so many people comment about your life, yet at the same time wanting to share your life with the world. I'm sure it's a topic that runs deep. It said examples, unwanted opinions, stalkers, scammers, being approached in public, vulnerability in front of thousands, family and friends being on the channel, confidence or self-esteem, and pressure to use your platform for God, being a Christian, etc. That was a mouthful, but I thought... a mouthful.
And it's a really good question, though.
Yeah, I thought it was a great topic. Because I feel like there is a lot of pressure, not one just being a content creator. And Jonathan, I do consider... Do you consider yourself a content creator?
I don't think so.
Do you feel like this podcast is not content?
I guess it is content. I guess I am. Yes. Yes.
And if you didn't know, I do have a vlog channel that is... It is my channel, but Jonathan is on there a good amount. So, and you lately have been taking the camera and doing your own segments. So you are a content creator.
Yeah, I guess so.
And that reminds me of something that we talked about this weekend. I don't know how much you want to talk about it because I'm never trying to put us on blast. And that's another thing about being a content creator, like she said. I want to share my life, but like it's like what's too much? And
wait,
like,
I don't know what you're talking about. Though.
Wait, I moved off of you for a second.
Oh, okay.
But
Sorry.
I was talking about your hat, and we had to have the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm still painting the picture. Being a content creator is one thing. Being a Christian content creator is like content creator. Then enough pressure is here. Being a Christian content creator is a whole nother...
Yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it took me... I've been doing this for like 7 or 8 years, and it took me a very long time to figure it out. It took me going back and forth between rebellion and between, oh, you can't tell me what to do, and stop trying to check me and give me your convictions and blah, blah, blah. But I have changed a lot, and I think people can see the growth on my like Instagram... Or not my Instagram, my YouTube, on a lot of things. But at the same time... It's kind of like, what do you share and what do you not? There are things that we do at home that we wouldn't do online, not because it's wrong, but because, so I think this is definitely an interesting conversation, and I think we can get into it. So
100%.
So, I mean, first of all, I guess I'll start off with privacy or like how much we share. So as someone who does vlogs, we share a lot of our lives. Even on the podcast, our very first episode was about us struggling to conceive. And it's like, a lot of people aren't going to share that with 50,000 people. And you don't have to. You definitely don't have to. But it's just like, sometimes I don't know. I feel like I had a calling, and we do because we're married. So, and I feel like Jonathan has this on his life as well. And he did it before he was ever a content creator because he preached at church to share personal information that may feel embarrassing, but to help other people.
Yeah, I think for me, 100% that I'm secondary in this because this is your channel first, so you've had the brunt and still deal with the brunt of other people's opinions. From my perspective and being honest and transparent, I think for so long in my life in general, I was so afraid to talk about things that I had struggled with, things that I had wrestled with, and I went through it so alone. Mm-hmm. And going through it so alone, the devil used it to trap me. I felt very trapped a lot of the times for a large portion of my life. And it wasn't until I decided to trust a smaller group of people with the things that I was struggling with that I got it out in the open, and then God was able to shine light into it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times God can't shine light into what we keep in the dark. Yeah. You know? But once I realized the freedom that God doesn't hold these things against me anymore. And even though I'm struggling, like, he's walking the path with me. It's like, how many more people will get freedom by me talking about XYZ? So it's like, There's a verse that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Yeah.
So what if the words of my testimony are going to be something that helps free somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
That gives them the license to be like, oh, I didn't even know I could talk about that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I feel like that is why I share a lot of the things that I share because, sorry. I wonder if that came on camera because I went right in front of the camera screen. But anyways.
A little fly.
Yeah, it's a moth and it's like going on the light, but it's fine. That is why I share a lot of the things that I share. I feel like I have pretty much always been an open person, and I feel like our eyes are... That didn't do anything. I feel like...
Jess,
sorry,
just lock in, Jess.
It's coming... No.
Jess, lock in.
Sorry. I feel... You're not even locked in. You're ready to hit it at any moment. Should we just kill it and just... Because be so serious.
All right, guys, we'll be right back.
What was I saying? I've always been a pretty open. I was never really just afraid to share certain things. I was always pretty open. What I wasn't always used to is getting so much response. Input and response on what I said. It's like, say I'm sharing in a group of girls. Like, I'll say something, and maybe they're talking about it in their group chats or on the way home, but I don't have to hear 100 opinions about the same thing, and all the opinions are different. And I know that most people want to help, but sometimes it can be a bit much, and there's different opinions and all this stuff, and people are telling me things I already know or things I already said, and I'm just like, sometimes I feel like people say things just so they can feel heard, and I'm just like, I just said that. There's so many times where I'm showing Jonathan comments, and I'm like, these people aren't serious. And Jonathan helps me a lot. He's like, it's fine, like, just ignore them. And sometimes he'll be like, yeah, that was really stupid. But managing the responses is, I feel like it's something that's always going to be new for me. Because I always say this, it's not normal for one person to have to see so many people have opinions on their lives or how
100%.
they look or on their marriage or anything like that. And I know it comes with the territory, but it doesn't make it normal. People are always like, well, this is what you signed up for. And I'm like, I didn't sign up for people to be allowed to be mean to me or allowed to say whatever they wanted to. Like, that was not a part of the application. I know it's going to come, but I don't think it gives people a pass. Like, oh, well, your life's online, so it's my business now, and I'm going to say what I want. But it's going to come. So I'm still learning every day how to deal with it. And some days I deal with it better than others.
Yeah, I think we both have different tolerance levels for it. So for me, like, coming onto it later, I have this thing that I say to Jess that it kind of bothers her. Mm-hmm. It's like the people are like, it's not real. Like, it's just like numbers and names popping up on a screen, even though it is very real. But it can oftentimes feel like, for example, she has like 500,000 subscribers, right? So if you lined up 500,000 people, that'd fill several football stadiums. But it's hard to conceptualize that. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it just looks like it's hard to view it as real people because oftentimes when there aren't things that I know people would say to your face if you were here.
Right.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It doesn't really penetrate me as deeply as it does you, but like I see like the effects that it has on you. I remember one time when you posted our love story.
That was the worst one for me.
On like TikTok. And TikTok is a little different than Instagram or YouTube because Instagram and YouTube mostly, unless it's like a short form content, most of the stuff is people who follow Jess, who know Jess. Mm-hmm. But TikTok, if something hits viral, it's just like it's wildfire. So people that have no context for anything about her. So people were commenting all these things about her. I really saw it getting to her more than any other time I've ever seen things get to her. Like she's like up in the middle of the night reading these things and trying to reply.
I'm like,
fiercely.
I was like literally in tears.
So like I had to like tell her to like take the post down. Like,
yeah. At first I was like, no, it's good. It's getting traction. But I was like, this is not what I want to be known for.
Like mental health wise.
Yeah. But even still, like that's another thing with social media. Like you need to know what you want to be known for. Like just because a video is blowing up, if the responses are mainly negative, depending on what it is, because I know a lot of Christian influencers too, their videos will blow up. And because they say something as in like a topic that people don't agree on, like modesty or like sex before marriage, there'll be a lot of negativity. Like with that, I feel like you stand on what you believe, but like
if you're being misunderstood.
Yeah, like certain things, it's like just because it's making you more popular or getting you more attraction, but if the overall picture is just not painted well, I feel like just it's not worth it. So wrap that up. And that's what I was going through. But I was like, some that's the worst it's ever been. And that was like, I think like about 2 years ago, but nothing's ever really affected me that much now. For the most part, I'll respond. A lot of times I'll delete block. Actually, there was a nice little thread going on about me on one of our YouTube videos about how we met. It's still doing numbers, and a lot of people stop at like how old we were when we met, and they just like say a bunch of stuff about me, and people will be like, oh, people will just wrap God into it and make things feel whatever. People will say whatever they want to say.
Yeah, when people, because the thing about it is that people are forming opinions not based on the full story. So like whether they just see the nugget or whether they see, even if they hear us tell the story, they still don't know the full story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so they don't really know you. So everyone that has an opinion on stuff, they can think that they know you because they see a specific version of you.
Yeah.
Even like the subscribers that like follow you, I feel like that can give them a false sense of knowing you personally.
Yeah.
So
I
like,
have a term for that now. I forgot what it's called.
oh, like I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
though.
I forgot what it's called, but yeah.
It's not real like intimacy. It's like social media intimacy.
But it can feel like
It can feel. Oh
like,
yeah.
I've been following you since you had the purple room, and that was like 6 years ago. So I've been watching you, and I do share so much. But it literally, like, you get a 1 hour vlog out of how many hours are there in the week? Like,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and then it's like even if they do know about a lot about you, they don't have a personal relationship with you. So sometimes people will comment trying to mean well. Like say they're trying to like check her or like, oh, like I see that you did that, but you can't do that because blah 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 blah. Right? Where as a check when it comes from a friend is a good thing.
right. And you can hear their tone
And you can hear,
stuff.
like, if my accountability partner, like my guy friends, if they're like, honestly, I don't think you should have did that. Like, it's different coming from a friend than it is coming from a stranger. Because even though they know a version of you or us, like, they're not your friend.
Right.
It's like, we love y'all, but we're not friends.
Right. We could be if we met in person.
Yeah.
You know, or like we talk on live and it's like, oh, you guys are my friends. Because like it can feel that way. But at the end of the day, like there is a line that is drawn where it's like at the end of the day, we don't know you for real, for real. But that is just something also that comes apart with it. And it's something that I have to like accept. At the end of the day, like you said, they're just comments. If I don't like it, I could just delete it. And it's just not there anymore.
And 100%, like, I feel like that could even happen even with non-influencer things. So, like, my friends from high school, I haven't seen some of them people in almost 10 years now, but I follow them on Instagram. I feel like I know them still. I feel like we're close still. I haven't talked to them in, like, 10 years. We're not close. Or, like, we're not really friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you think, it's like, oh, no, I saw last week they was doing...
Yeah. But people have to know their boundaries, but I have to be in charge of my emotions because people aren't going to know their boundaries. So I have to check myself with, like, why did that comment make me so upset? When just, like, delete it. And I was listening to this podcast of this girl the other day who she just got a divorce and people are saying all these things about her and calling her a bad mom or whatever. And she's like, why am I upset that someone who doesn't know me and doesn't see me with my kids calls me a bad mom if it's not true? Like, who cares about what this person in China just said? I don't know them. Like, they basically said what you said. Like, they're not real people to me. She's like, and also, if people says mean things like, oh, she's so bossy. She's like, okay, I am bossy. So what? Like, why would that bother me if you're saying something that's true? Like, someone's like, oh, Jess' hair look a mess. And if my hair did look a mess, it's like, no, actually, I don't like that one. Because why are you being mean?
No,
but
because
like,
it's like the advice of people that don't love me matters less to me. Like, it just ranks lower. Because who are you?
who are you actually?
Like, why do I care what you think? Who are you?
Okay, but what if like 50 people said it in the comments?
I think it's kind of like what you said on why they're mad. Right? If I said something that I believe, like I really believe, but that is controversial, but like, and they're not arguing at the point that I made, they're mad at something else that I didn't communicate it properly, then I can either take that down or apologize it because you're not mad at what I was trying to say. I just didn't say what I was trying to say correctly. But if it's a stance that I actually have and I actually believe and actually feel like it was something that either God led me to say or like I felt like I was supposed to say at that time, I'm not mad at being the bad guy for being with what I think is truthful. But I don't want to be the bad guy if I could have said something clearer.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. And I also, though, like, there has been times where, like, people would say something to me, and I will be like, you know what? I see where they're coming from. Like, maybe it did come off wrong, or, like, the way it was edited, like, I cut out a certain part, so they only saw one part, and then I'll clarify or something. I remember a long time ago, this is back when I had the purple wall, I did a try-on haul of Fashion Nova dresses. And this is after most people knew I was Christian. This is when I had way less followers. Like, I don't even think I had 100,000 followers yet. But I did a try-on haul of Fashion Nova dresses. They were, like, really short, really tight, like, really high slits. And I had somebody email me, and I could feel the love in the email. And that was one of the only times that someone has, well, let's use check for a lack of better terms, in love, that I really could actually hear what she was coming from, and I took the video down. Because I was like, she is 100% right. But I feel like if she wouldn't have worded it properly, because a lot of people have tried to check me on what I wear or what I say or my nose rings or whatever, but the way they say it comes off so harsh that I'm like, I can't even hear what you're saying because it's the way your approach stinks. Like, I can't even hear you. But when she sent it in an email, so she didn't try to embarrass me in the comments, and she was like, hey, I'm really just, whatever she said what she said. It was so nice. I don't even know if she's still a follower. I never heard from her again. But I took it down because I was like, you know what? Even though she doesn't know me personally, what she said was right. So I'm not saying that just because you don't know me doesn't mean what you're saying in the comments or what you're trying to tell me is wrong. But a lot of times it is. But I felt her on that one, and that was one of the times where I was like, I actually do feel convicted. So sometimes it does help, but it really depends on people's approach. But that is just one side of social media that can be a little tough. I know you don't post that much on Instagram, but I know you've had like a desire to like start doing like outfit videos or anything like that. So say that was your whole thing, like you were an outfit content creator. Would you feel pressure, since you have a platform, you're building followers, where does talking about Jesus come in for you? Do you feel like I feel obligated that I have to incorporate Jesus because it's my duty? Like, where do you feel like you would be with that?
Well, I don't know. I think you're using outfits as like an example.
Yeah, it's just an example. Like, say
I'm like, because I don't like think I want to make.
I know, like you're a content creator who is a Christian, but you don't make Christian content. But your job is to make disciples out of the world any way you can, and now you have a platform of 100,000 people. Do you feel the pressure to like this? I need to incorporate or like what?
Well, yeah, it depends. I feel like for everybody, leaning into God and asking what He wants you to do is super important, but it also depends on the nature of the content as well. Like, if you just make videos of you getting dressed, like, that's all that happens in the video, it's going to be hard to naturally include, like, the Jesus aspect of it.
People are doing it these days.
I mean, you can decide to do it, but I don't think you're wrong if you don't decide to do it. But if I'm talking, like, if in these videos I'm talking a lot, then naturally, if Jesus is a big part of my life, which He is, it's going to come out. Like, I'm not going to have to. I would have to try not to talk about Him rather than trying to talk about Him. You know what I mean?
Because it's just, like, such a part of your...
It's just a part of... Yeah, and, like, if I'm going to be known for anything, I want to be known as someone who loves Jesus. So, I guess it goes to what you want to be known for as well.
That's good, because somebody asked me, like, I do daily vlogs on my vlog channel, or weekly vlogs, whatever. And somebody said, how come you do weekly vlogs, but in your vlogs, I never see you reading the Bible? And, like, I thought that was a good question, but at the same time, it's very interesting to incorporate, like, I'll talk about Jesus and, like, things like that. I feel like I've been doing it a lot more recently since I've really been, like, diving into different parts of the Bible and not just, like, the popular quotable parts, even though there's nothing wrong with the quotable parts, don't get me wrong. All the parts of the Bible are important. But it was interesting to me because I completely understand what you're talking about. It's like you have no excuse because it's not like your content is about science and you have to try your hardest to, well, Jesus and science should be easy to, whatever, you know what I mean. Not that your content is about pillows and you don't know how to incorporate Jesus in seamlessly. But for me, it took a while to figure out how to naturally incorporate showing me read my Bible. Because I'm like, does it feel fake if I set the camera up and then I'm like, wait, hold on, make sure you can see the Bible. I'm like, it feels weird and like...
Feels artificial?
Yeah, it felt artificial because I'm like, I'm reading my Bible. It's just I don't always set up the camera to do it. And I know also a lot of people, because I'm a comment reader, but a lot of people are always like, So you set up the camera, you set up your lighting, and then you open the Bible and you started worshiping. So sometimes I see videos like that too, of people like worshiping like in the house or whatever, and I'm like, whatever floats your boat. Like maybe you started off normal and then the Spirit came, but did you set up and you're like, and turn on the music and you're like, huh? Like, I don't know, but that's not for me to judge. But I was like, I want it to feel supernatural, but I feel like I found ways to incorporate it to be like, so this is what I read this morning, and I want to. This is what stuck out to me, and I want to talk about it really quick.
That's good.
Yeah, instead of setting up the camera and like putting like non-copyrighted music over it while I'm reading my Bible and knowing good and well I'm like stopping the camera and changing the angle so it's still interesting. So that's why I never really incorporated it, because I'm like, it felt fake. And then on my Instagram is about hair. You know, I'm like, how am I supposed to incorporate it when I'm doing my hair? But I have found other ways, like with the music that I'll use like a Madison Ryan Ward. I can see the tired in your eyes.
There ain't no tired in my eye, girl. I'm good.
Poor baby. It's almost 10 p.m. I'll use every now and then, like I'll use a Christian song, or like I will post scriptures in my stories. My stories is the easiest way that I can incorporate my faith naturally. And then just this podcast, it's an easy one because it's faith-centered. So
yeah, and it really is what you want to be known for. So I feel like the podcast, out of all the socials that I'm a part of you doing, I feel like this is the most fun I have, because talking about Jesus really is talking about good news. You know what I mean? So like that part of it is fun. But I think for everybody, the answer is going to be different.
Yeah.
You know, so pressing into what God is saying to you, sometimes he might want you to do things in a way that might be different than somebody else. So, like, whatever is the most authentic for you with what you feel God's placed on your heart.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely felt convicted about it earlier this year. And I don't know if it's because, like, we were just talking about this on my live. I don't know if it's because I started realizing that a lot more people were incorporating their faith into their content. And I was like, okay, if they can do it, then I need to find a way to do it too. Not because like I want to be like everybody else, but I'm like, I have such a big platform, sounds crazy, but I'm like, I have the reach of together like 700,000 people. And I'm like, why am I not talking about Jesus in some way, shape, or form? Like, why are people not seeing Jesus through me? And like, maybe they can through my personality, like, oh, I can just see your light shining, but why am I not being intentional about making Jesus known when I have this huge platform? Like, yeah, it's about hair. Figure out a way. Like, I don't want to make it super unauthentic and be braiding my hair and being like, well, here's the 10 commandments. But some people do it, but I was like, I need to find a way to be more creative, because I know this platform at the end of the day is not all about me. Yeah. And in the beginning, it very much was. Actually, our pastor said something on Sunday. He said something about, like, if you go on your Facebook or on your Instagram, if there's only pictures of you, then you need to reevaluate or whatever. And I can definitely understand that if it wasn't your job. Like, if my job was, like, fixing cars, and that was my social media account was about fixing cars, and that was, like, my actual job, and everything is about cars, and nothing is about Jesus, it's like, that's the thing. That's your niche. But at the end of the day, I still felt like there's always a way to incorporate Jesus. It doesn't have to be every single post, but I'm like, there's a way to like sprinkle it in. Yeah.
One thing that I read recently in this book was that basically as believers, it doesn't really matter what you do. I mean, it matters what you do. But I'm saying like
run that back.
Profession-wise. Like,
it's like be a stripper.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
But I'm saying, what I'm saying is that we think about it a lot of times is that there are secular jobs. And that there are ministry jobs. That if you're a ministry job, your job is to do ministry. Like the pastor's job is to do the pastor stuff. I'm just a physical therapist. Like, that's not my job. But as a believer, we don't believe that there's like sacred things and non-sacred things. Everything that you do is sacred because the Holy Spirit lives inside of you. So me as a physical therapist, my job, if I do it as if I'm doing it for God, because it is doing it for God, that's a sacred act too. Yeah. So I feel like within your sphere, whatever level of influence you have the ability to present it to God. And have that be a thing that's not like any less than anybody else's thing.
And you know, something that I was thinking about also is, even if I was not a content creator, just the fact that I'm on the worship team, I have influence there. So like,
everyone has influence somewhere.
Everyone has influence. So it's like, how are we stewarding that? And it makes me think of like, even just like social media aside, just from being on the worship team or just the fact that I do the announcements on Sundays and everyone can see my face, the way I live my life and the things that I post and the places that I go, it matters. So whoever is watching that, just because you don't have a big platform, even if you are someone who hands out the pamphlets at church, or you're a greeter or whatever, you have influence. Because if someone saw you at the club Saturday night, but you're the first person they see at church on Sunday because you're like, welcome, that was your influence, and they're going to think things about it. I mean, you want to be, what am I trying to say? It's because the word's not coming.
You want to be what?
Who do you want to be known for? Or what do you want to be known for?
What do you want to be known for?
Yeah, your influence is not just social media. You can have influence anywhere, okay?
Yeah, so one thing that I feel like has been a conversation for us in our house is, in stewarding that influence, are there certain things that are not quote-unquote sins? Like, there's nothing wrong with them in a vacuum, but there are things that you won't promote because you don't want people to potentially get the wrong message about stuff.
Okay.
I'll ask you first.
Yeah, so, like, I personally won't do, like, liquor campaigns. And there is a difference between not promoting something, not because you don't indulge in it, but it's just like the looks. And I know a lot of people this can be a touchy subject with some people because I do drink alcohol. And I know that alcohol is such a touchy subject for some Christians, but I think that people hear alcohol and they immediately think drunkenness, or like, what's your reasoning behind it? And like, you should be filling that void with the Holy Spirit. Like, they just jump to a lot of conclusions. But I don't have no problem with a glass of wine.
Jesus drank wine. Jesus made plenty of wine.
I know, we always go through that. And you know when Jesus made wine? At a wedding, because the wedding was limp. He said, we need to turn this party up.
They called Jesus a drunkard.
They did?
They did. I mean, they were wrong.
Oh, I'm like, not my Jesus.
No, they were wrong, but they called him a drunkard, which means that they had to have seen him drink wine. So there's nothing wrong with drinking wine. Drunkenness.
It's the drunkenness, yeah.
But it can still be one of those subjects that cause a lot of strife in the church.
Yes.
In general.
Absolutely. Which is why a lot of churches, like my parents' church, the one that I grew up in, we used to have actual wine at breaking of bread, or communion. We call it breaking of bread.
Jamaicans call it breaking of bread.
Communion. They recently changed to grape juice or whatever, which is fine. But I think just for the safety of some people, and babe, I was 9 years old drinking that wine because as soon as you get baptized, you can indulge in breaking a communion. I was 9 years old, and I was like, oh yes, and that's probably why they changed it, because they're like, this isn't right. Anyways, but yeah, so I won't promote certain things. Like, I'm not about to promote an alcohol campaign because I feel like it sends off the wrong message, because people see that and they think, oh, people are getting drunk and alcohol causes drunk driving and all that stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm not promoting it. Does it mean that I won't have a drink? No. Am I out here getting drunk? No. But when people see that, that's some people's first thought, and that's not what I'm trying to push out.
Yeah, and like from a public perception.
Yeah.
So I think we'll invite you a little bit into our world. One thing that I've been wrestling with that Jess checked me on is that I have this hat. The hat says Coors on it, Coors the beer. So when amongst friends, will partake in a beer. I'm watching the game, I'll drink a beer. I feel zero conviction about drinking the beer. This is one of my favorite beer brands. So I have this hat and I'm wearing it. I'm like, I won't wear it to church, but I'm wearing it, and I'm like, it's a nice hat. Like, it fits right. I just like the colors, everything. And then Jess is like, why are you wearing that hat? And I'm like, I just like the hat. And I'm like, and I'm not wearing it at church, so I'm not doing it in a place that's touchy. But then she's like, what if you see somebody that watches the podcast, or see somebody that has seen you from church, and what if they feel a way about that? Like, what about that now? So I hadn't thought about it in that way. So it made me wrestle, and I still don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but God pointed me to a specific scripture where Paul is talking about food sacrificed to idols. So I want to read that, and then we can kind of talk about that if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I have a mental note, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. You say the note while I'm looking for it.
Okay, so good. One thing about me, I'm gonna correct the story. So it was no, but you didn't say anything wrong.
Bro, she's had this thing recently where anytime I tell a story concerning her, she feels like she needs to add an addendum.
Telling the story wrong. It's kind of like that, but I didn't ask him why he was wearing that hat because when he originally put it on, I knew where we were going. I knew who was going to be there. It was like his best friend's house. I knew who was going to be there. They know us personally, and I didn't think there was going to be any judgment, any stones thrown. So I didn't say, why are you wearing that? But then we went to a festival where there was going to be much more people there. I didn't know who could bump into us because lately we've been bumping into subscribers a lot. And I was like, are you going to wear that to the festival? He's like, yeah, why? I was just like, you never know who we're going to see. And since they don't know you personally and we don't know them, I don't know if someone who's struggling with alcohol right now and is like new to the faith is going to see that hat and be like, okay, I've been struggling with beer and I think I'm convicted, but you know what? I saw Jonathan wear it and he's a man of God and he seems fine with it. So I think that was my sign that I don't care. Now, some people could also be like, I don't want you to lose your thought.
No, I'm good. I'm just reading.
So some people, I'm trying to debunk things while we're here. Some people could be like, oh, so if you can't wear it to church, then maybe you shouldn't wear it at all. What do you say to that? Because I can see how some people would be like, well, if you can't wear it around certain people, maybe you shouldn't do it at all, which I don't agree with. But
well, it depends on the company and the reason why you're not doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's like everything's not for every space.
Right.
Just like the way I talk to my brother is not going to be the way that I talk to a judge, just based on relationships and based on what you know will cause people to stumble or not. So I think these verses can be good. Okay. So Paul talking about like food sacrificed to idols. 1 Corinthians 8, verse 4. So what about eating meat that has been offered to idols? Well, we all know an idol is not really a god and that there is only one God. There may be so-called gods in heaven and earth, and some people may actually worship many gods and many lords. But for us, there is one God, the Father, by whom all things were created and for whom we live. And there is one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom all things were created and through whom we live. Mm-hmm. However, not all believers know this. Some are accustomed to thinking as idols as being real. So when they eat food that has been offered to idols, they think of it as a worship of real gods, and their weak consciences are violated. It is true that we can't win God's approval by what we eat. We don't lose anything if we don't eat it, and we don't gain anything if we do, right? So he's talking about a thing that is not a sin, right? He's saying it doesn't really matter if you eat the food that has been sacrificed to the idol or not, like in terms of God, because we know that it's not real. So let's just talk about something that you feel no conviction for, that God's word doesn't speak against. So that's like establishing like a precedent. Yeah. From there it says, but you must be careful so that your freedom does not cause others with a weaker conscience to stumble. For if others see you with your superior knowledge eating in the temple of an idol, won't they be encouraged to violate their conscience by eating food that has been offered to an idol? So because of your superior knowledge, a weak believer for whom Christ died will be destroyed. And when you sin against another believer by encouraging them to do something that they believe is wrong, you are sinning against Christ. So if what I eat causes another believer to sin, I will never eat meat as long as I live, for I don't want to cause another believer to stumble. So I think that those verses and that section is good in establishing a precedent based on something that you don't believe is wrong, that God has given you no conviction for, but is a point that may cause other people to stumble. So I feel this way about certain music as well. Like there are certain levels of things that I will play in certain spaces, like when I'm with family, that I won't play in mixed company or like in a church setting. And I don't even mean like music that's like clearly bad, but I just mean like stuff that's could be iffy for some people because you don't want to cause anybody else to stumble. Whether it's like at a group event for church, we don't have any drinks in a setting like that because you never know what someone's struggling with. You never know what may cause someone else to stumble. And I do believe, I'm talking so much.
It's okay, go ahead.
And I do believe there are things that aren't sins for some people, but God will put something in your heart about it.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, one of those things was Twitter. Mm-hmm. I still love Twitter.
Yeah.
I used to want to be on Twitter. It was my favorite thing. But God told me, get off of that app. Very specifically for me, he said, I don't want you on there. Mm-hmm. So for me to be disobedient to God, that is a sin for me. But for Jess, who feels no conviction about that, it's not a sin.
Yeah.
Right? But in other things, for other people, they may not be able to make that distinction for God has put this on my heart, but he's not put it on your heart. Mm-hmm. But if it's going to cause strife, if it's something that's known to cause strife, sometimes it's better to go without it, especially in the presence of that person.
Yeah.
If it's going to cause them to stumble.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's important. We were listening to,
The Perrys talked about that too.
Yeah, that. But you played me a piece of a book that talked about, there was this word.
Ooh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a C.S.
He was
book.
talking about drinking, actually, too. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, I'll probably be able to find it. You go.
Okay, but I think also it's important that just because you feel convicted about something, I don't think you need to make everyone else feel bad for it as well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, honestly, the thing that's one thing, but maybe you feel convicted about something that is wrong and someone else is doing it. It's fine to have a conversation about it, but sometimes I think you need to let people get their convictions on their own.
100%.
Because you telling somebody, like, that crop top, you cannot wear that, and they're like, I don't feel no type of way about it. It's like, let them be. Still love them, but don't make them feel like you're not a Christian or whatever it is. I feel like it's really important to extend people grace, especially your content creators, because they are putting their lives on blast. And it's so easy to pick apart somebody's life who's showing you everything. But if a camera was following you around 24/7, I'm almost positive people would find things that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing either. But it's so easy to point out this plank in someone else's eye.
Speck in someone's eye.
The speck in someone else's eye. And you got a whole plank in yours and you don't see it. So that's another thing. You found it?
Yeah, but being like you said, being very judgmental.
Yeah.
About others' walks, especially people that you don't really have relationship to.
Yeah.
I think that can be a huge danger.
Yeah, I agree, because people used to really, really, really get on me about the things I would wear in my vlogs, and I can agree. Aside from that one video, like, maybe I was doing a little bit much sometimes, like my 2-piece bathing suits, which I will still wear them, like, on vacation with Jonathan or whatever. I'm not going to post in them, or like a lot of the things I would wear, like very low cut things. But the condemning was tough. So I couldn't see. I'm like, I don't feel no type of way. My heart was getting hard because of the way that people were trying to check me on it so strongly. I'm like, I can't hear you. But eventually I think it's very important that a lot of people gave me grace, and the convictions came on my own, in my own time. Now, am I saying that I was right? No, but like, it came in my own time, and it came, but it didn't come because people were beating me up about it. Like, that almost never works. So I feel like it's very important to extend grace when someone's doing something that they're not there yet, to extend grace on them in their sins.
Yeah, the word was temperance.
Temperance, yeah.
Yeah, so
explain that.
In the book Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, it's the best Christian book ever read. Temperance referred not specifically to drink, but to all pleasures, and it means not abstaining, but going the right length and no further. Mm-hmm. One of the marks of a certain type, I'm like skipping ahead. One of the marks of a certain type of bad man is that he cannot give up a thing for himself without wanting everyone else to give it up. That is not the Christian way. An individual Christian may see fit to give up all sorts of things for special reasons. Marriage, or meat, or beer, or the cinema. But the moment he starts saying that things are bad in themselves, or looking down his nose at other people who do use them, he has taken the wrong turning. Mm-hmm. So we might make decisions for us where God has put that on our hearts. Like for certain people, like I know, like they can't watch certain movies because like God's put it in their spirit that like this turns them away from Him, or can't listen to certain music. Or for certain people, they can't drink at all, or be around other people while they're drinking. And that's good for them, but not everybody's going to have the same bent in that way, or need that in the same way.
Yeah. And not to, first of all, I don't want this to seem like, oh, we're making excuses for the things that we do, that everyone's on their own journey. And I'm just talking about how things that may come across as being a content creator and people seeing the things that we do. We try our best to be careful, you know,
with the platform,
with our platforms. And by no means are we perfect. And yeah, there are still things that we keep offline that we probably shouldn't. Like, there are some songs I listen to that I probably should not listen to at all. But I'm still in the process of pruning and letting go of some things. There may be some outfits that I won't post, but I'm like, I'm going to dinner with my man. I want to wear this tight dress. Like, there's, by no means doesn't mean I'm perfect. And I don't, as soon as people hear that you're a content creator and you're a Christian, they put you on the highest pedestal. Like, you better have everything right. And the moment I find out that you're doing something wrong, condemnation. I'm unfollowing you. You're not a Christian. This, and this. Like, I got so much slack for my nose ring. Like, just a lot of people just think that once you say you're a Christian online, all your ducks need to be in a row and all your convictions need to match up with everybody else's. And that's just not.
Yeah. And I think it's like, I feel like it's like wanting to tell people, like, trust us that we love Jesus and we want to live, and we really want to live for him too. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We're just still trying to figure it out. We're still trying to we're young.
We're
still trying to we're still trying to figure it out.
We're figuring it out day by day. Just like you on the other side of this camera is. So we're just like, why does this video feel like I've been trying to, like, explain ourselves this whole time? Like, just give us a chance. Like, I don't know.
You say about anxiety?
I don't really have anxiety in front of the camera. I feel good.
Well, I don't have anxiety in front of the camera, but what I do have is that when I'm on, so this is like as a consumer rather than as a creator, of social media, if I'm on social media too long, like straight, I feel like my life force is being sucked from me. I don't know, like, that sounds strong. I feel empty after a long time on just like doom scrolling. It gives me like actual anxiety and depressed feelings after long periods of it. And I think it's because it's my brain thinks that if I just like can turn my brain off instead of filling it when I'm tired, instead of filling it with like the gospel or filling it with good news or filling it with good things, like, that's what's going to be the thing to heal it, where I'm feeding it the wrong fuel when it's already close to empty. So one of the things that, like, I've been thinking about recently is that some people are like, they pray like, God, I have anxiety. Take away the anxiety. Yeah, God can take it away, but on the same time, God's practical too. And like, you might just need to put your phone down.
Yeah.
You might need to just go outside and
touch
grass and talk to somebody. Like,
A
talk
real
to
person.
a real person in real life. Like, I feel like it's no mistake that, no coincidence that this generation is the most anxious, the most depressed. And they're also the least connected to real people, but the most connected to online.
Yeah.
So I think that on that side of it, because I still feel, even though I am a creator as well, I still feel more consumer than creator as as things switch. So as a consumer on that side of it, like, maybe the freedom from your anxiety or the freedom from your depression is on the other side of putting the phone down more and actually going outside, which undercuts us, but who cares?
Yeah.
I want
the best for you. I don't care. I want, at the end of the day, I want what's best for you. Like, if it's like, oh, I'm spending too much time watching Only One Just, or I skip church to watch your vlog, like, I would never rejoice in that. Like, ooh, thanks for, like, no, go to church. Like, I would never rejoice in that. I think when it comes to me being a consumer, I don't necessarily get anxiety, but I definitely get wanty. Like, I don't know what.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, like, I'll see, like, someone's kitchen, and I'm like, we gotta I've always wanted to redo the kitchen, but then I'm like, yeah, this definitely gotta get that kitchen. Or I see the new Coach purse, and that I never wanted before, but now I see somebody with it, and I'm like, I love that purse. I gotta have it.
Finding yourself being influenced with the world.
Yes,
by the world.
I do. And then I start buying things that I don't need. It's just like, I can become very like, oh, I gotta have this. Click, just bought something off of Amazon that I did not need 4 minutes ago, and now I need it. So, and I could also be that stumbling block for other people too, because when I buy things and I vlog, I'm like, look at this new bag I bought, or like, ooh, clothing haul, I got this from Zara, and then other people will want to. But at the end of the day, that I can't carry that burden because
100%.
Like, it is what it is. But I can stop myself from being the type of person who has to buy everything they see, or like they see a new trend, or I gotta try that, or XYZ.
Yeah, I think the importance as a consumer in grounding yourself in spiritual reality multiple times a day is like super important, or you can get lost in the physical reality. Mm-hmm. Because as real as physical reality is, and we can see it, touch it, like spiritual reality is as real.
Yeah.
So like we become consumed by the physical. The spiritual is being attacked through those physical things, if that makes sense.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And sometimes I feel like it's so weird that like social media, it can be so evil, but it
can be so good too.
It can be good too. So if you're a content creator or someone who aspires to be, like, make sure you're on the healthy side of it. Like the content that you push out is not adding to the evil side,
like what do you want to be
negative side.
But and 100% yes. And even if your content is good, and even if you're a person that only consumes good content, too much content is still too much content.
Yeah, too much of anything is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like this conversation honestly could last forever. There's still like 100 things on my mind that I would want to talk about.
Give us one more of those things.
I've been doing this for years. I could do this all day.
You know how long I've been waiting for this? I had to make a name for myself.
When it comes to our life on social media, this is for the future. When we have children, that's been a really huge conversation these days. Like people showing their children's face on social media, or like people making money off of their children, or people having their kids in videos without their yes. Even if they're like 6 and they say, yes, I want to do this, they don't really know what they're saying yes to. So like, what do you think our future might look like with that? I don't know.
I feel like it all depends. I mean, I feel like this is going to sound so cliche. Pressing into God and seeing if he gives you conviction either way. And moving in wisdom, I think platform levels are different as well. Mm-hmm. You know, Kim Kardashian's platform is a lot different than our platform. If I had Kim Kardashian's platform, I'd probably want them online a whole lot less.
Right.
I feel like with the level of notoriety that we have, you could still live a very, very normal life where you can be, like, some people might walk up to you, but you can be insulated in a large point from not being able to walk or move without people knowing who you are. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when it could be dangerous for the people like super famous.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we were at that level of fame or notoriety or platform, whatever, I would feel a little bit differently about it. Right now, I'm not against. If God was like, no, I don't want your kids on there, then our kids won't be on there.
Immediate no. And yeah, and I don't feel any type of way to people who do have their family on. I mean, like, my family is on there, and I love to watch their content and all that stuff. But I do feel like if my kid was like, no, I don't want it, or every time a camera was in my baby's face, they would start crying, like, I wouldn't show that. Or like the videos that I really hate are like when people are embarrassing their kids.
Oh, that's whack.
They're like shaving their heads.
No, that's whack.
Oh my gosh, those are the worst. They like pain my heart. Like,
no, that's whack.
I guess at the end of the day, our biggest responsibility is to make sure that our content isn't pushing anyone away or further away from God. Even if my content that day is a hair video and I don't say anything about God, it doesn't turn someone away. And I can't control people's feelings. Some people are turned off by my nose ring. It doesn't mean I'm going to take it out. But like, I'm not purposely, wrongfully like pushing people away from.
Yeah, or being controversial for the sake of being controversial.
Right. Like, at the end of the day, I just don't want to embarrass like my family, my church, my Jesus, not in that order, but like, I don't want to be an embarrassment to the kingdom, you know? Like I said, we're not going to agree on everything because there's so many, people have so many different opinions, convictions in with their relationship with Jesus, but at the end of the day, that's theirs and ours is ours. But I want to make sure I'm doing everything that I can, and I'm sure you're making sure you do everything that you can to make sure that we're just not embarrassing the kingdom, each other, our church, anything like that. So that's just, we're just doing our best.
Yeah. We're
not going to get it right every time either, so...
Yeah. Just like as you live your lives with your sphere of influence, I feel like just living your life to the best of your ability to let Jesus shine through you in whatever your sphere of work is. Like for me and Jess, a lot of times it is social media. For me at work, through physical therapy, it's a little different. Mm-hmm. But there's no common acts for people that are in God. Like everything you do is sacred.
Yeah.
So it's not like all right, I left church, so I can go do whatever I want when I'm with my other friends. Like, everything you do is sacred, so.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important for people who are content consumers and have that, that's the word, the interpersonal relationships, whatever, with people, to allow people to change their minds. Like, one day I could take my nose ring out and be like, you know what, I'm convicted. And people are going to be like, well, I thought you said blah, blah, blah. It's like, people's minds change. Like, I'm only 32. When I'm 40, I could feel some type of way. Like, I could get a tattoo tomorrow because I don't feel convicted about tattoos. And then in 7 years, I feel convicted and I'm like, never mind, I want to cover it up. And then I'm preaching about, I think tattoos are wrong, even though that is not something you would do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I feel when I'm 40.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
But I think it's just important to understand also that people change their minds. The same way you in your life change your mind, people who have a platform, they can change their minds.
Openness to being wrong, or openness to...
Yeah, and that.
It's a certain level of humility that, like, I don't know everything.
That part. I don't know everything, and also understand that people who you're watching... I just have a camera. That doesn't mean I'm a genius and I know everything. Like, anybody with a camera can come online and say anything they want to. So we're going to be wrong sometimes. We're going to stumble. We're going to change our mind. We're going to have to maybe apologize for something we said or how we did something or something we should... Like, it's just going to happen. And I feel like we need to be aware of that and know when to take accountability for things that we say, that we put on the internet. And once it's on there, can't go away.
Yep.
Except for that one fashionable video I did, it's gone, so don't even try. Fine. Yeah.
All right. I'm ready to go to sleep.
Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Between the Walls podcast. We'll see y'all here again next Monday. Also, don't forget to follow us on our Instagram at Between the Walls Pod. We're also on Apple and Spotify podcast if you want to listen to us in the car. Make sure you like and share this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We love you guys, and we'll see you in our next one. Bye.